Go to
time.
Go to the kitchen.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Go to the
it's
kitchen.
Conspiracy Wednesday.
Oh, they all rushed out the room.
It's Conspiracy Wednesday. It's time for the good news, the bad news, and the other shit. That's right, Conspiracy Wednesday. Where's where all the mad black folk come out? There.
See?
Mad.
All right.
And you should be.
Restroom break.
Should be mad.
There, here we go. Let's see if we can keep it positive, you guys. Here we go.
We ain't gonna keep it positive.
Wait a minute. Can conspiracies have positive outcomes?
Let me tell you, okay, let me start out on the positive, you guys.
There we go.
We feature on our channel the corporation.
Very good piece.
Wonderful video when you want to understand
Right.
something about what's going on in the business world and how you're affected. We showed it. We purchased the download before, but I bought this extended version of it, Vic.
Yeah.
Because it has a bunch of extras.
Yeah.
And we're going to be featuring a bunch of those extras on our channel. We
Right.
want you to go out and purchase. Search it out. The Corporation.
Right.
Watch it online for free. Get involved in the movement.
Yes.
You know, in terms of showing this. It's all part of that movement, you guys, that we're part of with this internet television.
Yeah.
So I will be bringing you some pieces from this.
Sounds
okay, but I got to watch it myself. Just got it.
Yeah.
Just got it. Proud to be a contributor.
Yeah, you know, hey, PMC, you're right. It is on Hulu. Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally on Hulu.
Yeah.
And again, we're trying to support these types of causes. We actually still have some giveaways. Sir, no, sir.
Yeah.
We'll get back to all that stuff. But anyway, you guys, it's Conspiracy Wednesday, and the biggest story has to do with the U.S. and Gadhafi.
Mm.
Now, you guys, you know what happens? What happens is I have a sort of the same pattern of looking at things. When you hear a lot about folks, and they're in the news,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you don't hear about them, that's when they took the deal.
Right.
Just like the Somali warlords, the evil, evil, oppressive evil, who have kids that go to USC.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Travel, all of a sudden they're evil now. See, but then when they go back on the paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
I
now,
understand that, man.
the thing that happened with Gadhafi, I want you guys to be careful. Watch how they're spinning it right now, because the U.S. at best was very tepid. There's a whole bunch of theories as to how this whole revolution there got started.
Right.
But I don't think, at least there are some people even put the U.S. involved in it, but really it seems to have been, at least for most people's thinking, a populist movement. Because most people on the leftist side have felt that Gaddafi's been on the U.S. payroll for years. That's what people have said.
Right.
And that he always had been, and that he was another one of those ones that, like Noriega and the Shah and all these people, they're on our payroll.
Puppet dictators.
We do stuff, and then when they act up, we all of a sudden call them out.
Right.
And then they're evil murderers, but then it goes quiet. And we said this. Well, what happened was, when this thing started in Libya, the U.S. was very tepid about it. And that was one of the criticisms by people, that they weren't helping the quote-unquote rebels.
Right.
But we went online and told you that part of the issue was that Gadhafi had been cooperating with the U.S., that's why you hadn't heard anything.
Right.
And that also many of the rebels were not friendly to U.S.
True.
And that there were multiple rebel groups.
Right.
Part of the reason why they were having so much trouble initially is they hated each other so much they couldn't come together and work together.
The usual story.
The usual stories.
Yes.
But then they had to get over that and decide to fight Gadhafi after he started whipping some butt.
Yeah.
Now it comes out that the U.S., there's all kinds of stories out there about the U.S. and the CIA because of these papers that they found. Well, that's what, again, this is part of what we've been saying all along. Gadhafi has been working. Now, when you get back to the Lockerbie stuff, you have to wonder. But at least we know we weren't opposed to having him on our payroll and interacting with him.
True.
They say he was helping with intelligence things. Well, like I said, once on the payroll,
always on the payroll.
Always on the payroll.
Right.
Always on the payroll. And so, so you're seeing there's a bunch of stuff out right now about that you can see about the U.S. The U.S. that he was on, that the CIA was doing it. Here's my
and the usual strategy is to throw up the collateral damage in the public's eye and view, so you guys can make determinations of who's really worse, who's the real bad guys. And that's usually what they frame it around. That's the whole part, because you won't get to know all the inner details.
No, this is the part I want you to watch right now, though. what they're really spinning now is all the press and the administration too are spinning the story like they were always against Gadhafi,
right?
And they were working hard to get him out, and we couldn't wait,
right?
So you hear nothing about him being our boy, and that's why we had that tepid entrance into the fray,
right?
But if you want to go and take a look, there's some interesting stuff at Al Jazeera, even USA Today. But, it's coming out, and people know. Now, here's what's so interesting. One of the rebel leaders, Victor, is a guy that we had previously picked up through one of our rendition things and tortured.
Okay.
So they know at least one of the leaders probably is not friendly. Usually you're not friendly to folks after they have picked you up and tortured you.
Right.
Yeah, usually leaves you with an unfriendly taste.
Very much
in
so.
your mouth.
Yes.
Far from friendly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the stuff that's going on with that.
So in other words, this is the latest story. And I'm not saying this is not true. I'm just going to say this, Mario.
Okay.
If people get used to having information come at them now more than ever, the consequence that the old tradition is don't let them know as much information. But now we're getting a whole bunch of information. Sometimes people get desensitized to that when they go, and now you get used to it, so it doesn't cause an uproar as much. It's kind of when I hate to use this. I hate to use this example. It's like, I hate to say this, it's ghetto plight, murder, death, crime. You get used to it. People say it's synonymous with the area, so it's not a big story. We reported this over and over. Now it goes on the back page. No big deal. We got to report it. You get desensitized to it. I think that's what's a lot of times going to happen here.
Well, the public we've seen that, not the ones who watch our show.
Right.
But the public are basically sheep. Remember, I'm the one who constantly reminds you some of the stuff I don't go looking for this stuff, by the way.
Right.
It just comes across the internet.
Right.
There was a study that previously showed that the U.S. public was willing to fight a war just to have cheaper gas.
Of course.
Now, some people might say that's shocking.
But what? Okay. What's the benefit of import and export on America's behalf? What is the whole? Is it really to give cheaper prices, for the consumer? Or to have higher profits, and geographics doesn't make any difference, right?
It's always about having higher profits for the business.
There you go.
That's what it's always about. Whenever you think other than that, you're being fooled.
So why would, in a free enterprise system, wouldn't you want the international borders to be open so you can flourish in your corporate business enterprise? Would you want restrictions?
Exactly. Remember, and people ask, I'm the radical leftist. Remember, my opinions on immigration. I fully support the rights of all colonized people to move freely within the colony.
Right. I know.
So whatever you colonized by U.S.,
right.
You can imagine this. I'd be over in Mexico like, damn, you run my country. I can't come up there. You run everything down here. You own everything down here.
Right.
You control everything down here.
Right.
But you say I can't come up there.
Right.
That was ours before you stole it.
Right. See,
Okay.
I'm only saying.
I don't know. I have the same opinions. I'm always warmed by watching Americans fight so much for the land their ancestors stole.
Right.
Okay.
I understand. See, all I want to do is have people think global economics and not get restricted by the borders that you line, because you become so comfortable in living in what you call the geographical fence that you've been used to. They take that away, you want to holler and scream. And I said, no. It's a benefit to many. Corporate America has proven this so that they get extended profits from what they do. So think more beyond. I know everybody's used to being in the city, town, and state they're in, but you got to think a little bit more progressively. Now, I do feel for others. I don't want to see job loss, but things cannot remain the same. It always will evolve. So I think you have to kind of accept to let go.
Well, that's at least that. You have no... Hey, Vic, you ain't got no choice any goddamn way.
Dude, I already said...
You better let go.
Hey, if you sit
you're
there...
Gonna die.
Okay, how many people, when the Model T came out and the horses, they were on bareback horses, and they're going like, how many of you guys want to actually drive in this metal machine? And how many people stayed on the horses? Okay, how many of the horses now still go up and down Crenshaw? See, you got to...
You kind of lost me there in the analogy, but okay. I guess so. You lost me out. Maybe Mac followed you. I was like, it's a horse, Crenshaw, then the thing. Okay, now I want to show you guys this piece from RT.com. That's former Russia television. They're one of the Russian outlets. who doesn't seem to fight us at every point. We can't show you much of nothing from U.S. companies because they fight us.
Yeah.
Even though we have the fair right use. But anyway, take a look at this piece from Russia Television about the new Libya.
Are you sure you got enough buffer, man?
Libyan leader Colonel Muammar Gadhafi has fled the country and is now hiding in neighboring Niger, according to officials. Gadhafi wasn't said to be part of the convoy that crossed the border Tuesday, while Burkina Faso denies claims it's ready to provide him with asylum. Before the start of the anti-Gadhafi campaign, the U.S. CIA and British MI6 were allegedly sending terror suspects to Libya for interrogation and torture. Claims based on diplomatic documents recently found in Tripoli have sparked outrage. This comes as the rebels now control most of the country. As RT's Daniel Bush reports, signs suggest it's not over for the violence in Libya, as the real chaos may be yet to come.
Mohammed Hassan is one of Africa's most experienced diplomats, just back from the Libyan capital. He says NATO bombing has turned it into a ghost town.
There is no police. There is no administration. There is no schools.
Law and order has been replaced by a motley crew of rebels. Some fear that the various groups who've emerged might soon start fighting each other.
Weapon stores have been raided, every man's armed with Kalashnikovs. If the tribes fight for their independence, the country will enter a never-ending civil war with brutal urban guerrilla warfare.
Analysts argue that even rebel leaders don't know where their fighters are from.
Rebel head Mahmoud Jalil was alarmed to find Islamist sleeper cells had joined his Tripoli offensive. A vast parallel structure of combatants has appeared. We have no idea who's in charge of them.
NATO's hopes of a reliable replacement for Muammar Gadhafi appear to be fading. Libya's rebels remain deeply divided, while the chaos from NATO's bombing appears to be spreading beyond the country's borders. In the turmoil, there are fears that religious extremists could be using Libya as a base to further their aims in North Africa.
Tunisian women got abortion rights 20 years before women in Belgium. Under the last regime, divorced women got benefits. Revived Arab religious movements are trying to reverse that.
Before the war, leaders from Barack Obama to Nicolas Sarkozy and Silvio Berlusconi shook and even kissed Gaddafi's hand. The rebels got the red carpet treatment in Paris, but the West will also change tack, warn experts, if Libya doesn't go for them as planned. According to this man who's just returned from war-torn Tripoli, the message from some locals there is that the conflict may have created a Frankenstein's monster for Europe.
They warned us that we don't know what we are creating in Libya. It will be a free haven of all extremist groups, which are just on the southern border of Europe.
Pirates from failed Somalia made their coast a no-go. Frighteningly, some diplomats now think Libya is heading in the same direction.
But what they will do, sure that it is Mediterranean will not be a safe sea. There will be pirates, and they will be obliged to control Mediterranean, to make it safe. I don't think French economy can support that.
Western intervention in Libya has brought large numbers of new forces to the fore. Experts fear the West itself may come to regret their emergence. Daniel Bushell, RT, Brussels.
Thank you, RT.com, Russia Television. You know, notice what they said. Libya was a site for our rendition. In other words, we were picking up people in other countries and taking them to Libya so we could torture them in Libya and then say under Libyan law was cool.
Right.
That's the way we do stuff.
Right. Right.
Okay, so that's part of the dirt now. Remember, you got to understand. That's why they didn't want Gaddafi really to fall.
Right.
He was going to, if the man's letting you take people from other countries to their country and torture them, ain't he working for you?
Right. Well,
and he doesn't do that for free, right?
Right. Now let me ask you something here. Let me ask you. Who do you think will designate a group, culture, whatever, on the planet that stands to make you more money, more leverage, and probably be more in a heightened state of death as an individual group? Is it the Americans? Who can you leverage more if you are captured by rebels or others, not of the same ilk? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So would that put all of us in a position of saying, you know, it's easier to get a lot more from someone like an American because of the political leverage, And also, I'm not endorsing this, please. Don't even think that. But the idea that they can put them up in a position of being able to, of course, murder or massacre, say an American versus, say, somebody from some other different background. So wouldn't that put us in a unique position as well to say we have to think outside the box because we're targeted as the number one on the list? Or is there some other group that's higher than us? Well, see, I'm just saying.
There's a bunch of groups.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Man. See, you got to look at it both ways.
No, you're right.
If we're targeted, I mean, I may not like the covert operation, but at the same time, I was going to go. Hey, when I was going to go to, I remember thinking about going to Egypt, and those tourists. I remember some tourists went to Egypt, and I said the machine guns opened up on them. This was some years ago.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing, you guys. It all has to do with the us and them, right?
Yeah.
In other words, Americans wanted to nuke. A bunch of them wanted to nuke Iran, but then we just showed Iranian protests,
right?
And those same people would have been nuked.
I know that.
So the point is that when you take these positions and you go to these violent, you always get innocent people.
The collateral damage.
You always,
right.
And that's the part on both sides. You end up killing innocent, and somehow.
Right. And I just say that you won't see on the news, if it's an American or it's British, or even Russians, suffer through this or whatever. There's a high threshold of, he said, here's the people we can leverage.
Well, let me tell you some other stuff that we're going to have to get into next week, Vic, because I'm going to have to move on from this story for this or that. One, there's a whole issue about African migrants that are in the Tripoli camps, the black Libyans.
Right.
The ones, see, they gets in the terminology, what you would call black.
Right.
Looking like what you would think of as a traditional African.
Yes.
They're actually running into a bunch of racism and prejudices in Libya. Attacks. Now, some of it has to do with Gadhafi actually had employed certain other tribes to come in as enforcers too.
Right.
So they were seeing many of them to be part of those groups.
I got you.
And it's a complicated story. That's why I can't get into it today. But we're going to try next week to get into the issue of the African migrants.
Okay.
In Tripoli, in Libya, and the issues between blacks.
Wow.
Okay, and the Libyans.
So now the ethnicity has its favor depending on how you want to use it. So the term black, depending on where it is politically, economically, or religiously, spiritually, all takes on different likes depending on what's involved.
That's right.
Okay, I can't wait for this one, man. I may take a day off, but that's all right. I'll listen up. I'll pay attention.
That's
to the
for next week because I got to get to some inflammatory stuff. There's more. So and also for next week, we're going to talk about the WikiLeaks papers because it's a little bit more in depth that actually deal with some of the information coming out, which is part of the reason why they don't want WikiLeaks because it's showing information about casualties of the U.S. actions. And a bunch of the studies previously said that, remember, Americans are very easy to shape their opinion if they don't have to see the deaths.
Right.
So notice you don't get to see deaths.
No, they
stopped
that.
You don't even get to see caskets.
No, they stopped that.
You can't even film your own loved ones being unloaded.
No.
Because they don't want you films and videos of death being out there. So next week we're going to be talking about the WikiLeaks revealing that U.S. troops have actually murdered a number of Iraqi children.
Okay. All right.
So, wow. Okay, now I want to get to some of the stuff for today because we got to get to some of the controversial items of today.
So, should we hide the kids in the backyard or what?
No, you can still let the kids come in. You got it.
Okay, no fair warning, right?
Well, it's not that bad. First of all, we have another piece of RT.com. Now, and I don't know how much. Again, this is Conspiracy Wednesday, right? So I don't know. Let's see what you guys think about this one. This is a piece that RT, remember, this is Russia television, talking about America and issues of our classism and about violence. And so they actually are saying that there is this issue where there were some blacks that were attacking whites. So let's see what you guys think about this one.
This is the Milwaukee story?
Yeah, it's conspiracy.
Okay.
And some of y'all may not like it. Take a look.
All right. Say so. Is it a buffer?
Well, I want to start off today sort of by taking a bird's eye view of America. How does this country look from the outside? And what's the pulse of the nation these days? There are, of course, a number of factors to consider. But let's look first at President Obama's approval rating. For the third week in a row, it's at the lowest in his presidency. Now, if you take a look, you can see it's at 40%. But this also includes a two-day low of 38% during a couple days last week. That is the lowest since he took office. Now, the economy, of course, a primary concern for people from both parties. And in many cities across America, the struggle is manifesting itself in the form of extreme violence, especially from young people who feel they have no prospects for jobs or otherwise in the future. Now, one of those cities is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where earlier this month there was mass violence in the form of riots. Now, you're looking here at cell phone video taken at the Wisconsin State Fair earlier this month in Milwaukee County. Now, according to several 911 calls and witnesses, hundreds, maybe even thousands of young black people were attacking white people on the streets. One of the calls came from someone saying his mother had been attacked. Others who said they were pulled from their cars or off their motorcycles. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really see much coverage of this. Race riots in a major city? The news on major networks seems more often to look something like this.
Nancy Grace will reportedly be competing on the new season of Dancing with the Stars.
Let's talk about the dress, or should I say dresses.
Beyonce and Jay-Z expecting a child, and she made that announcement at the Video Music Awards last night.
All right, so what's the deal here? Why are problems like this still happening? Local Milwaukee officials, there's some Milwaukee officials that say something needs to change. And one of them is joining us now for more. His name is Bob Donovan. He is an alderman of the 8th District of Milwaukee. Hey there, Bob. Let's start out by, I just want you to talk a little bit about race in your city. According to the U.S. Census, Milwaukee is the #1 most segregated city in America. Paint a picture for us of what this actually means, how it looks, and how it has led to problems.
Well, I think, Christine, without a doubt, Milwaukee has been labeled and continues to be over the years a segregated community. I think that's changing to some extent, but certainly when you look at the city of Milwaukee compared with its suburbs, which are largely white, the suburbs, Milwaukee is most definitely segregated. We're seeing a greater movement to other parts of the city, but more and more it's becoming a minority community. Couple that with a huge problem in black male unemployment in Milwaukee's inner city, some placing it at close to 50%. That has its problems that, unfortunately, there are far too many individuals in Milwaukee who have chosen to ignore it.
So when
that creates some difficulties.
When you have 50% of any kind of population unemployed, that can certainly lead to a host of problems. I'm wondering, though, I mean, is this a place, if people visit Milwaukee, is this a place where you see, you know, interracial couples walking in the street, or is it simply kept so separate that people don't even acknowledge each other?
Oh, you certainly see interracial couples, and I mean, I wouldn't want to paint a picture that isn't realistic. Milwaukee's a beautiful city. We have a great downtown. We have many great amenities. Having said that, we've got some problems, but certainly you see interracial couples, and you know those hyper-segregated days are long gone. We're seeing significant numbers of blacks throughout the city and a large Hispanic population. Milwaukee's a very, very diverse community.
But I've got to say, Bob, I mean, this was really surprising to me to hear about hundreds of young black people, mostly guys, consciously attacking people inside and outside of the state fair a few weeks ago. One of the calls I heard was from somebody calling in saying there's a black on white fight in the middle of the street. Where does this stem from?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I'm simply saying we need to first admit we've got this problem. And I think this whole community was really, it was a wake-up call what occurred at State Fair. Yet at the same time, I will tell you, these problems have gone on in Milwaukee. I believe, for whatever reason, there is an effort to keep some of it under wraps, and that concerns me. but we largely have many elected officials in Milwaukee who choose to ignore this because it's such a volatile issue. I'm simply saying, and have come out with a 10-point plan to try and begin to address the problem, first by admitting the problem exists and then taking steps to address it.
I think that's a really interesting point. I know that you have said this before, that when it comes especially to race and youth violence, a lot of people simply throw their hands in the air. Like you say, they choose to ignore it. They don't want to talk about it. And they certainly don't want to think outside the box when it comes to dealing with it.
Wow. Wow, you guys. I don't know about you guys, but that kind of messes with my head. I don't have any comments because I need more information about the whole piece. Now, this is coming from Russia Television, RT.com.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I didn't play the whole piece. It's like 14 minutes long.
Oh, look, I have as much information as everybody else seeing here, but I come from a different mindset, and I know that everybody has their own opinion about this, but I don't stand behind anybody who says through my personal plight, I have to go out and try to destroy somebody else's life or try to go and attack some other individual. It's my outlet for being progressive. So if it is true that they did this, you know, they need to be punished, punished by the law, and youth doesn't get a disclaimer on this. So if it is true, and like I said, there's reports, and Milwaukee, not saying that they may or may not be. I don't know enough about Milwaukee, but there are many other cities that probably are doing worse, and they don't resort to this. So until we get further information, I go like, you know, I'm sorry. If your outlet is to go out and say, I'm doing so bad, let me go out and fight somebody else who has nothing to do with my personal growth and development, then, you know, I don't endorse that.
I'm gonna write down, Vic, and I support entirely what you're saying. I'm gonna target that for follow-up and see if I can get some more stories on it in the future.
Yeah.
We're running late. That's part of the reason why I had to shorten up some things, and I still have one last piece I want to show you, and we're gonna follow up on this topic next week. It has to do with the fact that the police all over the country, seemingly with the permission of the Justice Department and the full backing of the current administration, are clamping down on citizens who videotape police in action. That's right. This is a piece about a man who's facing life in prison for filming police. Now, we've been bringing you over the last couple of weeks a number of pieces about what's happening to people. One lady was in her own yard, in her own porch, and there was an incident across the street, and they arrested her.
What city was this in?
I can't remember. I have to go back and pull the piece.
Okay.
I think it was Arizona.
Try to outnumber the number of people who have cameras. And then what you're going to run into is people going to have the same complaints about why me and not them. And who do you go to select first? Where do you start this campaign
That's
first?
Right.
Please get the name of the police chief who's the head of this city so we can sit back and follow what his reasoning is for this, to say why this is more important than the crimes that's happening that are far more important than actually recording the policemen doing their job.
It's actually happening, too, all over the country. I'll get it, but it's been more than one place.
Oh, no, I know it is. That's why
it's a scary trend.
And I want to know, and like I said, it's a state or it's a local level, right?
Well, it seemingly, whenever these kind of policies go down,
right,
you usually have some type of least informal kind of permission or setting of the trend.
I agree.
So the word comes down from the Most High. We'll at least will allow you to do this.
You know, so you know what, Mario, I don't endorse anything that I may suggest, but I just think when you're dealing with young people, they think so far out the box. You have to be careful of being set up. You know what? And I just think there are things that you just have to stop and go, here's all the things that's going on: crime, rape, child molestation, everything. But they're going to focus on, I'm about to do my job. Oh, go over there and get that person. They're videotaping us. That's how they're approaching it. Or they're going, we're going to go look at all the arrests and see who's actually showing cameras. What date? When are they going
to go get them?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Take a look. It's crazy, huh?
It's crazy, man.
This is America.
I can't believe
this is America, not Nazi
Germany. I want to get
Germany.
in a question about another case here, one that may have similar implications. This is a man in Illinois, 42-year-old Michael Allison, who's facing 75 years behind bars. I think we have some video of him. From what I understand, the crime that he committed is recording police officers. This is a crime illegal in a dozen states, including Illinois, where he's from, recording audio of law enforcement without their consent. Now, he faces the same punishment as rapists, as murderers. Alex, what is going on here? What is the bigger picture in this?
Okay, well, it's just like the government says it's the law, you've got to take vaccines. There is no law. Just because they can get a jury to convict somebody doesn't mean that the statute was applicable. And the First Circuit Court of the U.S., before the Supreme Court, ruled yesterday that all of this is illegal. But you're right. In 12 states, they're arresting people who film police in the street, city council. Some people have gotten 5 to 12 years in prison and are serving terms because the police get up and say it's illegal. The jurors believe it. Eavesdropping or wiretapping is when it's secret and the other person doesn't know. But when you're in public, there's no perception of privacy. That's why a police officer can have a squad car camera, or why when you go in a store, they can have cameras, because you know it's a public area. So it's a giant hoax that it is illegal, and it really is the scariest thing I've seen in a long time, that the police would knowingly try to put this guy in prison for life for simply videotaping them in public. It is incredible. And yes, they're technically claiming the audio of the video is the wiretapping, but wiretapping is coming up to the side of your house and putting a recorder on the wire. It is not filming police in public.
Really, really interesting implications. A lot of critics of these laws saying, you know, the police might be out there to serve and protect, but there are so many examples of them doing some pretty harsh things. So who's going to watch them? Just a lot of interesting stuff here. Radio host Alex Jones in Austin, Texas.
Wow. So we're going to be following up on this one, you guys. Like I said, I got to keep up on this one because that's crazy. That's crazy. Remember, they said 12 places, Vic.
Oh, I know that.
So I'm going to go get the information on that, okay? But that's part of our Conspiracy Wednesday.
Okay, let me just ask this question. If you were a officer, would you vote saying, yeah,
No.
Would you say, yes, I want them not to videotape me?
No, I would not them want to know.
I do not want them to videotape me.
No, I'd be for openness. I'm for openness.
Right. As a police officer, you
doesn't make any difference.
Right. Now,
I believe in parents being in the room. People have the option to all those things. Okay, I just believe in that. Whether or not it inconveniences you, that's part of what you have to deal with.
I would love to know how they voted. Give me the results of the state so I can sit back and see how much they went behind this.
Of course they did. And so, everybody, that's Conspiracy Wednesday.
I feel better. I feel better.
Messed you up, didn't I?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the good news, the bad news, and the other shit. That's right, Conspiracy Wednesday. The good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Ba-da-da-bum.